Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series. We do this every week, twice a week in fact, every Tuesday and Friday at 5 p.m, where we sit down and have a chat about the current state of Arsenal, any upcoming news and breaking news, of course, as well. Now, before we kick off things, I've got a guest today, which I'll introduce to you very quickly. But before we do, I've got a slight announcement to make in regarding to the channel and specifically for the Let's Talk Arsenal show. It's been going down really well with you guys, clearly, and you enjoy the integration and the interaction with all of you in the chat box and everything. And it's gone so well that we've been approached to have a sponsor for Let's Talk Arsenal specifically. And sponsorship in general is not something the channel has had in the past. It's not something that we've specifically done. We've been approached by things before, and I've just not really kind of felt that they've been in keeping with the aesthetic of things. But this is different, and there's a reason for that. I want to introduce you to our sponsor for this, called Football Prizes. Now, as you'll see on the screen there, not much Arsenal-related things on their website right now, and that's about to change with the partnership that we have joined up with them with. Effectively, what Football Prizes is, it's a weekly competition. It's a raffle of sorts where you can win some really cool kind of football-related prizes. You can see some on the screen for you. Then, in fact, I'll scroll down so you can see some more. We've got some Duncan Ferguson, Jean Moutinho, Christian Eriksen, which is not so great for us, Kevin De Bruyne, Jordan Henderson, etc. Very non-Arsenal right now. As I said, that's going to change very soon with the likes of Thierry Henry signed shirts, Patrick Vieira signed shirts. And there's chances for you guys to win them. Now, whenever I signed up to this, one of the main things I wanted was for our members who help support the channel every single week to have something specific. And so what I've managed to also agree with Football Prizes is that one of our members every single week will get a free ticket into one of these raffles. So I'll be on the Discord server every week when this kicks off fully on Friday, to give you guys the chance to win a free ticket. It'll be done basically on not a first come first serve, but within a time frame for you to sign up for your chance to win a free ticket. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. You'll hear a lot more about this on Friday when the first competition goes live. They do live streams to announce the winners, which you can watch along and tune in for. So it's going to be interesting as we get integrated with it a little bit more. But that is effectively the new news regarding Let's Talk Arsenal and the Gooner Talk specifically. So I hope that you appreciate the fun stuff that's going to come in the coming weeks. But let me now introduce my guest for today, which is the very, very fantastic Johnny Cochrane. How you doing, mate? Are you well? Oh, you're mute. Oh, yeah, I've muted you. That was all me. That was all my fault. That was classic Zoom 2020 kind of problems. Go again.
Sorry, Matt. I just wanted to scare you a bit, like you had unmuted me in time. So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good actually. Yeah, you know, things are looking up for us guys, really, in general, isn't it? You know what I mean? I remember being on this show about what 6 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and a very, very different mood. Yeah, you know, new year, new opportunities. I think that's the kind of vibe. I'm trying to improve the lighting in my room, which, you know, I'd love to tell you I've got professional lighting and stuff, is actually just using the torch on my iPhone to add a little bit of bounce to the cheeks. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm good and pleased to be joining you.
Yeah, I mean, my lighting is equally as rudimentary. I mean, I can show you. We've got a light literally just here. That is it. That is my lighting. So it's nothing too professional at the moment. Maybe things will change. Maybe if we get like 50 sponsors, I can afford some good lighting.
yeah, absolutely. Or you might maybe get entered into a draw to maybe win some lighting. You know,
there we go. That is what we need. That is some synergy with lighting raffles. Anyway, the latest kind of news that we've got at the moment is regarding Rob Holding, which I'm sure you've seen announced. We're going to go through kind of the quotes from Arteta, and then I'll get your thoughts on it. But chat box, of course, let us know what you think about the deal. I know there are some people out there that aren't too happy with this, kind of seeing it as the Arsenal renewing players that have been here for a long time. We should be moving on for that. We'll discuss that point of view and some of the opposites to it as well. But let's read through the announcement on the Arsenal website. Of course, this is more about what Edu has been saying, and I'm sure Arteta has added to it as well. So he says, "We are very happy to have signed Rob on a new contract extension. 25 years old, so he's still coming into the peak of his career, and we are delighted that he'll be with us during these important years. Rob has shown great quality and maturity on and off the pitch in recent months and is developing well. We are looking forward to Rob continuing his progression in the coming years. Arteta said, since I started as manager, which is something we're going to talk about a little bit later, actually, I have been hugely impressed with Rob's contribution to the club and the dressing room on and off the pitch. The quality of his work every day on the training pitches is excellent, and he is translating this into consistently high performances in matches. We all know Rob's quality, which he has shown in his displays during the intense moments of those 2 FA Cup victories. We are all very happy that Rob has signed a new contract. He is very popular with all the players and staff, and we're looking forward to watching him continue his growth with us in the coming years. So, Johnny, what's kind of your reaction to that initially, to him signing that deal?
It's got to be good news. I mean, you know, if you look at what has been a very disjointed and tumultuous season for Arsenal so far, Rob Holding would have to be put down as one of the bright sparks out of the whole endeavour so far. The fact is that, you know, apologies if I take Arteta's quotes with a little bit of a pinch of salt, considering he was getting ready to be sold in the summer. Oh, since I came in here, he's been absolutely outstanding. Tell that to him when he's about to get on a train to Newcastle earlier in the season. But, you know, overall, you know, take him at his word that I do think, you know, he is very much behind Rob Holding now and sees him as, you know, a stalwart of the Arsenal defence moving forward. But, you know, as I say, I have to, you know, give him credit where credit's due. He has been as consistent a performer as we've had in the back line, save maybe Kieran Tierney, obviously. But the rest of them, you know, Gabriel's been good, but he's also, you know, as you'd expect from a new player coming in, had some slight on and off games as well. And I think Rob Holding's added that level of consistency. And also, he's an English player. This is one of the issues with Arsenal. I hate the kind of conversations when it comes around nationality of players. It really starts to bother me when they're like, oh, you know, he's from Brazil, so he's going to start diving, all this. I don't like this nonsense. But one thing I can genuinely say I get on board with, when you've got British players, you know, and you're talking about going to Burnley on a Tuesday night in January, to, you know, obviously Stoke are not around, but insert equivalent West Brom, you know. I don't think that when you are from Scotland, as Kieran Tierney is, or up north like Rob Holding is, they're not scared of a rainy, cold night on a Tuesday night. That's what they grew up doing. And I think that we absolutely have suffered in the past of having defenders who maybe look good in playing August football, you know, look good maybe, you know, the last couple of games of the season. But when it really comes into the kind of nasty little games, when it is cold and bitter, they don't show up. And they often got bullied. How many years did we see at Stoke? And I don't think that Rob Holding fits in that mould of getting bullied in those tough games. He is someone who had skill and consistency in those, you know, hard to dominate games, the ones that are going to be separated by small margins and often defensive errors. You know, I'm not trusting Mustafi to perform in those games. I wouldn't trust him to perform in any game, actually, even at kid level. He's that poor. But, you know, so it's been a roundabout way of me saying I'm absolutely delighted that he signed, because those are the kinds of players that we need to start investing in and moving forward. You know, whatever your views are on him, at the end of the day, he's really bucked his ideas up and he's performing consistently, and that's, you know, deservedly rewarded with a contract.
Yeah, I love the famous quote from Arsene Wenger saying, sorry, he didn't cost like £50 million, because that kind of sums him up as a player. He's not spectacular. He's not the next, I mean, we call him the Preston Cannavaro sometimes, but he's not going to be that level of defender, I don't think, ever. He's not going to be a world-class player. But as you say, he's just a player that's going to be consistent. You know exactly what you're going to get from him, and he's going to give you a 7 out of 10 pretty much every single week. And he's not going to put too many feet wrong in comparison to some of the centre-backs we have had, like David Luiz and Mustafi. Those guys making the mistakes that we've been used to. I don't associate that kind of loss of concentration with Rob Holding in any way. let's drop into the chat box and see what some of you guys are saying in regards to the new deal. Tom says Holding deserves a new contract based on his performances and positive attitude. Also, with the many departing centre-backs, it would have been stupid not to keep him. Pete says Rob is of a good age, British and playing well. Why wouldn't you extend his deal? Matt G says, I think it's really good news. He deserves a new contract. He's not a world beater, but can do a really good job when he is called upon. Gary Hardy says how fans are not happy about this is stupid. Yes, he isn't world class, but he's homegrown, which we are struggling with numbers. He is coming into his prime, and we have the extra 1 year option as well on his new deal, which is quite a good thing that I've seen started to be inserted into contracts. We did it with I believe it's Rekic that we've got the additional year added to his contract, the new signing we made from Hertha Berlin. It's something that they're trying to do. Man United have done it for a while. We've seen Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard recently have their 1 year options activated. So that's good news. But there are some negatives. Let me just highlight those and I'll get your thoughts on them, Johnny. Thapello says Holding can't be first choice next season. Holding should not have been first to get the extension. It should have been people like Emile Smith-Rowe, Leno, Mainsley, Bellerin, etc., is next to get that extension. So there are some people who are more not as pleased about this and kind of see this as maybe Arsenal turning around and going that Holding is going to be our first choice centre-back for the next 2-3 seasons. Do you think that's what this contract means?
I don't actually. I don't think that that's a guaranteed, kind of signifier that he's going to be the starting centre-half. We've also got Gabriel there, who, by proxy of signing in the summer, is tied to a long-term deal already, and has looked very good since he's come in, certainly for a player in his first year at Arsenal. And also what's important with centre-halves, as everyone probably knows, I'm not, saying anything revolutionary here, but it's very important to develop partnerships. And what's been very impressive with Holding is, one, he's been adaptable and played with different partners and still put out consistently good performances. But he looks like he established a little bit of a partnership with Gabriel. They look comfortable playing together. And, moving forward, that can be a kind of a good hub for creating a defence. The fact is, in terms of individual performances, when you look at, say, a David Luiz or whatever, his ceiling might be a bit higher in the sense that he has the capability to knock 60-yard moonrakers across the field into the strikers, into the strikers' feet, and they score a goal and play excellent defensively as well. And in that one-off game, you're talking about like a 10 out of 10 defensive performance. The problem is his, low bar is absolutely worst player on the pitch, sent off after giving away a penalty, and maybe he's punched the manager as well. This is what does, So what we don't need to do is start addressing our defensive needs in the way that we have with, our lack of creative options moving forward. So trying to pack our centre-halves with creative players. At the end of the day, what we missed out on in the past defensively are just people that like to defend. People that don't go hiding when it's, big bullies that come to town. And I still think that at this stage, one of the greatest checks on Rob Holding's resume was that cup final against Diego Costa. Now, I know that was a while ago, and obviously he's been injured since then, but it shows the temperament of a then young Rob Holding coming into the team, not scared by what was the deadliest striker in the league and a brute at that. And he didn't go hiding. He dominated him, and Diego Costa now lives in Rob Holding's pocket like a little borrower. So, he takes him out every now and then just to feed him like a little, like the geezer out of Shawshank Redemption who keeps a little bird. But in general, Rob Holding doesn't need to be our starting centre-half. That's the whole point. I don't know about the figures he's getting paid on this, contract, whatever else, and whether there are serious markers. But in general, I don't think Rob Holding's a geezer who's going, I'm not signing unless I'm getting 200 grand a week. That's not going to be, the case. And as long as he's on a reasonable contract, even if Rob Holding is one of your 4 centre-halves that, plays almost backup, as we get better, when we have to try to re-establish a squad that can go into the Champions League, we need a player like Rob Holding to be our 3rd or 4th choice centre-half with an excellent world-class centre-half still to come in with that ability, And I also think that William Saliba can plug one of these holes. I have faith in the man. But ultimately, Rob Holding is not going to drag you out of Champions League competition, because he is a competitive player, if not a standout world-class centre-half. You don't necessarily need a world-class one. You just need a non-liability. And we've stacked our defence with liabilities for quite some time now. So welcome change.
I think it is. I mean, you talk about the world-class centre-backs of the world. There are some teams that bring in a player like that and are transformed. You look at Liverpool with Van Dijk, who came in, but that was done in obviously combination with Alisson as a goalkeeper as well to improve. And then you've got the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson to support those at fullbacks. Arguably, our right back is not of the level of Trent Alexander-Arnold. They've also got players that can play in the middle, Jordan Henderson, in a weird way, he's got that very Rob Holding-esque feel to him in a way. And then you got Fabinho, who's a very, very good player that can play at centre-back. He's so good defensively in midfield that he can become a centre-back himself. And then they've got the front line of just world-class talent up top, which performs pretty much every single week. At Arsenal, if you added a Van Dijk-esque centre-back to us, I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough to transform us like it would do Liverpool, because there are so many other areas of the pitch that need to be improved up to the level of Liverpool that it's not. And if we think about when we struggled earlier this season, when we were winning 1 game in 10, we never looked at that and went, yes, the defence is the issue. That's the main thing as to why we're not winning games. When it wasn't, it's the forward line and a lack of creativity and a lack of clinical finishing. So the signing of Rob Holding and then the reaction of some to say that, oh God, we're now relying on this guy to be our centre-back for the next 3 years is an overreaction and completely fine, because we should be looking to invest in kind of other areas of the pitch, like a centre midfielder, like a creative midfielder, like maybe a forward player when we lose Nketiah and Lacazette and Balogun in the future. It's going to come from other areas that Arsenal invest in, and it's just an astute kind of decision to make this. Now, it does have an impact on some players. We've got Socrates Mustafi, David Luiz leaving at the end of the season, and that now leaves Arsenal with Holding, Gabriel, Pablo Mari, Callum Chambers, William Saliba, of course, when he comes back, and Dinos Mavropanos as well, who's coming back from loan, which a lot of people kind of forgetting about. He's having a decent year away at Stuttgart. I spoke to Drew earlier today, and he tells me that he reckons Stuttgart are going to probably try and keep him. So that tells you how good he's been, for instance. But Chambers is kind of that weird link between them all for me. And with Holding signing that new deal, and Arsenal, as we know, from the likes of Ornstein telling us, want to sign another right-sided centre-back, do you think this Holding contract maybe kind of signals a near close to the end of Chambers' time at Arsenal?
Yeah, I do. And I think it needs to. He's not, for me, Callum's not going to make it. He's not a dreadful player by any stretch of the imagination, but he's had a good run of things. I know, early years he bounced out. We sent him out on loan to a club. I think he had 2 loan spells, actually, and did okay at one of them. But in general, you have to start really cementing a place for yourself when you do get your opportunities. And when Callum Chambers had a go at the start of last season, he was all right, and people were even saying he was one of our better performers. But, he never instilled me with the confidence that this is the guy we need going forward. I think that what Rob Holding, probably Callum Chambers is a bit slicker on the ball than Rob Holding, but Rob Holding brings aggression to the team, to his game, which is sorely underprovided by our current squad. When you've got a captain who is as battle shy as Aubameyang at times, you need characters within the squad and the starting lineup, and ones who are not going to back down from that fight when it does become a bit spicy and physical in the Premier League. I think that, for me, it's interesting you were trying to compare us to Liverpool in terms of your analysis, but I think for me, Rob Holding doesn't need to be Van Dijk. Rob Holding needs to be a Joe Gomez or a Matip. Now, can he be as good as Matip? Yeah, he can. He can be as good as Matip. Matip doesn't do anything, where you go, whoa, you're a cut above. So ultimately, maybe we haven't got our Van Dijk yet. Maybe we sent him out on loan in January, and we'll see over the next couple of years.
Or maybe we're having Gabriel.
Or maybe we're having Gabriel. But between those 3 players, in my opinion, and all the other ones can pretty much go, You have a very good hub there to either say we have 3 very good centre halves who could be competing for a starting berth, and or we either need to sign a excellent world class defender, or we wait and see if Gabriel or a Saliba can make that kind of a step up to being something a little bit more than, just a very, very good defender. So, I do think that, I've come on here and said I have been very alarmed in previous weeks about the lack of offensive fluency that we have within our team, of course. So, there's no question that I could be kind of accused of not being focused on Arsenal's attacking lineup. However, getting areas of your team sorted when it's in your control to do so, you need to get it done. What we've done is let good players who could have provided functions to the team, let their contracts dwindle down to the point where we are in very, difficult positions to utilise that situation to our own advantage, and we're either paying over the odds for people and giving them guarantees they shouldn't be getting, or losing them for free or no money. So getting someone like Rob Holding locked up, I think, can only be seen as a smart move, in my opinion, and doesn't tie us in to have him starting every week. But it also gives us an opportunity to go, right, we're not going to be held hostage by players like this, but Mustafi, out the door. Get him gone now. Socrates, let's get you out in the bin. Let's go. All of these guys. And then we have an opportunity to either go to the transfer market to, if we feel we're really missing something and we can add it, or we let our youth players give an opportunity for them to come in and plug those gaps. And I think that's the kind of way that Liverpool did it. And so, tie down the core of your team, who are not all superstars by any, spell of the imagination. But apart from that, then you can kind of be more selective in the transfer market. Whether or not we're going to make all the right signings in other areas of the field, that's a different question. But I don't really see what there is to critique about signing Rob Holding to this. This is just smart business.
I agree with you. Mr. Joe Kerr says, our defence has been the weakest area for us for a decade. With Holding, Marie, Gabriel, Saliba and Mainsley and Tierney, we are a lot stronger. And not only that, I think we've actually got a coach that has improved us defensively. I think that he's had struggles in the other end of the pitch for sure, and we've seen that come into effect with the horrible form we experienced earlier in the season. But defensively, we have looked better. In fact, I think someone put in the chat earlier, we've currently got the 4th best defence in the league. And before the Aston Villa match that we lost 3-0, we had the best defence in the league. So it is just an area of the pitch that I think is not one that we are focused fully on recruitment and getting this deal done for Holding, especially as I've mentioned earlier, and maybe people are sleeping on this a little bit, with a year option on that deal is also good, that protects the value of the player and protects us, because even if he didn't want to say sign a deal in 3 years' time, we can activate that 1 year as Manchester United have with Paul Pogba, even though he doesn't necessarily want to stay there for much longer. And then you can move them on if you need to and get a bit of money for those players. So I think overall we've covered that pretty comprehensively as smart business. Now, the next kind of topic that I want to come on to is it's kind of up in the air because it's Spanish media that have reported this. I don't know. I'm springing this on you a little bit, Johnny. But Mundo Deportivo released an article today about a little bit of insight as to the promotion of Mikel Arteta as manager, which is a topic that me and you have talked about on the channel before, and kind of the errors that maybe the club made in that. Some of the revelations from the article were that there has been a reversal of kind of the hierarchy, in that Arteta is now effectively above Edu in the hierarchy, and that Edu actually reports to Arteta rather than the other way around, which seems crazy, but not so crazy beyond Arsenal means of their hierarchy and how decisions are made these days. And it also revealed that he is kind of in direct line with KSE. He is the one that goes to them to negotiate around transfers, around renewal of contracts, like we've seen with Rob Holding, in conjunction with Edu. And actually, the power that Arteta has at the club is maybe a lot greater than what fans, and myself specifically, thought he actually had. And when we were all thinking about Edu coming out and backing the guy and saying that we weren't going to get rid of him, maybe it's because he can't. Edu now
backing his boss.
Yeah, he's just backing his boss, as you would do if you were scared for your own job. So what do you kind of make around that news? And what do you make of this? Is obviously allegedly and with a pinch of salt coming from Mundo Deportivo. But it's an interesting story to come out, especially regarding the transfer market. And now that we've kind of turned around our form, that things are much more comfortable, when we all kind of thought maybe he does need to go at one point. So what is your reaction to that?
To be honest, as you said, it's conjecture at the end of the day, and we're talking about, a possible situation. But I would be surprised if they've gone about it this way, and I'd be a little bit more dismayed at the kind of power structure at Arsenal if they can let these kinds of things happen, if that's the case. Ultimately, if you've given your manager who's had a job for 6 months basically carte blanche for the club, including promoting him above his old boss, which it would just be absolutely baffling. Let's just actually kind of take this as a possibility and see how this has happened. If Edu has been hired as a sporting director, and then within 6 months, a new manager who's been brought in his first job has basically taken his job, gone above him. I mean, how can he be sitting there in his job thinking, basically, what am I doing here? Otherwise, he'd be the kind of sporting director equivalent of Winston Bogard, where you're just picking up a big paycheck now and you're not actually doing anything. At the end of the day, Arteta not only is woefully underqualified at that point to even be a manager, because he's never had a job, and we took a big risk on him. If we, just because of winning an FA Cup, were promoting him to a level where he hasn't even seen what kind of, responsibility taking, the roles out of a sporting director's hand would entail. It's just baffling, and kind of would really sum up the kind of fuzzy thinking around Arsenal and lack of footballing expertise, because that's what it smacks of. If this is the case, it's a lack of experience at any level of the club to know how we can formulate a coherent structure, including power structure within the club, to bring about sustained success. One thing you don't do is give a new, novice coach just free reign to do whatever he wants, because Lord knows he's come within that close of losing his job. Well, he should have lost his job, I thought, at the time.
Yeah.
I think he's on borrowed time now. If he starts messing it up, he could quickly be back in the hot seat, needs to go situation. And right now, he's kind of riding the crest of a wave of goodwill. And hopefully, due to the fact he's realised that our future is going to depend on playing young players who have hunger and passion and talent, for that matter, to take us to the next level. But if he starts going back on that kind of thing and going, no, I do think it needs to be Willian and Pepe or whatever, you can go, mate. You've not built up enough, anywhere near enough kind of cachet with the fan base to warrant a long-term tenure. Ultimately, if that's the case, and KSE or whoever made that decision are looking at a guy who should be, living hand to mouth in the footballing terms with regards to his job in Arteta, giving him all the responsibility, then they should look at themselves and think, we don't really know what's going on here. Everyone we hire ends up a bust. So, it would be deeply concerning about the way that Arsenal make decisions. But ultimately, I'm not sure that's the case. I'd need to know more before I started believing it. Otherwise, I'm an angry man shouting at the wall, really. It's like it's not been proven, is it?
I've left a link to the article in the chat box. I'll also DM you it after the show, Johnny, so you can have a read of it. But there's a good comment here actually from Sheath King, who says, if Arteta is in total control, then have we not just returned to the Wenger structure that we had, where he basically had his finger in all of the pies at Arsenal? And what's worrying about that, because I genuinely think that there is truth in him obviously gaining a lot more responsibility since his promotion to manager, a lot more integrated with him recruitment, with contract renewal, with deciding which targets to go for, with scouting, with players coming through from the academy and checking on that side of things, as well as kind of the admin side of things as well that a manager would have to do. But what's worrying is that obviously a lot of people were kind of done with Wenger towards the end because he was so integrated into everything, and that we thought that we needed more kind of footballing minds to manage specific sections. So that, because if one man is running everything, if he's having a bad day, then the whole club's having a bad day, which is kind of what Arsenal need to move away from. And what we thought was going to happen when that movement started to go, with Sven Mislintat coming in, with Raul Sanllehi coming in, with Husfarmi coming in. And now gradually, I agree with Sheath King, we are moving closer to that less people, more people, or less people doing more jobs, because Sven's now gone, Raul Sanllehi's now gone, Husfarmi's gone, 55 members of staff were made redundant, including the likes of Francis Cajagao. And all of these guys are moving on. And Arsenal have got a very inexperienced group of executives in Arteta, that's 38, Vinay, who's 40, Edu, who's 42, Josh, who's 40. It's insane, like how young a lot of the senior members of staff at the club are. And they are doing a lot of things right now and have a lot of responsibilities, which does make you slightly concerned as to how we move on from this. Do you want to, how do you kind of feel about all that as a concept?
Well, if we are, and I will say the word regression, if we are regressing to a, kind of individualistic approach to a power structure with a couple of key individuals making all the decisions rather than specialists, and, the kind of dispersal of power to specific expertise, which is how I think we should be running, then, yeah, it's a step backwards. And the fact is that I had a lot of issues with Arsene Wenger by the end. I really did. And he well outstayed his welcome for my money. But, at least he had some credibility by, having all of these, wearing all these hats and having all these responsibilities under one roof, in the fact that he was experienced. He'd shown that he could do it to different levels of success for a period of time. So that was why he ended up getting all this responsibility, because he kind of could, and he was used to doing it. Arteta has nowhere, you can't compare the managerial profiles of Wenger at the time Arsenal employed him and Arteta. It's ridiculous. So if all it takes is 6 months of improved results and an FA Cup win to basically get given the keys to the kingdom, then it would really create even bigger question marks about the judgment at the club from the people that write the checks. But I one of the I think I've said on here before, one of the kind of moments over the last 18 months where I had a bit of a gut check and was like, oh, I'm not really happy with that one, was when Sven Mislintat was released from the club. Because at that point, I did actually think that certainly around the areas of transfers, I thought we had an expert on the case. It didn't mean that every single player we signed was going to be a guaranteed winner, but the majority of them were, and they were. They look, in hindsight, you look at a lot of Sven's business, it's been very good, really. And he's gone on and looks like he's doing well at his new club again. Yeah. So, for me, that was when I was like, oh, okay, I feel like if there's a good young player out there, we're going to be on them. And if they're shockers, like, I don't think Sven would have signed Pepe. I don't think he would have done it. So we really messed up in those situations where we started to take it out of the hands of experts. And, again, like, even if you want to give Arteta the credit of being an expert within the field of football coaching, which I'm not sure I'll even give him yet, he has to earn back that kind of trust and respect because of the state that we've been in. Even if you want to give him the credit in that, one thing you can't give him any credit for being an expert in is, the areas like football transfers, because so far he's got nothing really under his belt to, as a badge of achievement. Yeah. And other areas including player contracts and managing money within the club, he's shown himself to be woefully underexperienced and a maker of bad decisions. The Willian contract case in point. So it would be a clear kind of signal that our decision makers at the top of the club are basically making it up as they're going along and desperate to allocate power to anyone who'll take it, which will be concerning moving forward, because that comes into what a lot of gamers were saying, even when we talked about like Arteta out, about the idea that it doesn't really matter what manager's in there, the structure of the club is in such a mess that it's always going to fail until that gets sorted. So yeah, it would be very concerning at a structural level if that was true.
Final topic before we wrap things up is quite spontaneous, because Arsenal have just released this information. It's exceptionally positive news, which is nice to talk about. And it's news about Martinelli, which is great to see. And it's Martinelli's injury update. I'll post it into the chat box just a second ago, so you guys will be aware of this. But in regards to obviously he was injured in the pre-match warm-up against Newcastle, and a lot of people, from how serious it looked, thought he could be out for quite a while. But that doesn't actually seem to be the case, which is great. Right ankle problem. Gabby turned his right ankle during the warm-up against Newcastle. If you've seen the video, I implore you not to see it, because it's horrible. And was subsequently taken out of the starting lineup. Gabby has progressed very well, and we're hoping that he will return to full training with us in the next few days, which is really, really good news. On our centre-back, Gabriel, he is now back in full training and is available for Thursday's match, so it'll be intriguing to see if he starts over Marie, or with him, or instead of him, or not at all. So that'll be fun. And then even more positive news is Thomas Partey is back in full training now, and they're kind of assessing him ahead of Thursday's match. So, and he was nearly ready for the Newcastle game. So if he was nearly ready for that, you'd imagine that hopefully he would come back in for the Palace game. So a lot of positive injury news there, Johnny. It does fill you with that confidence going into the Crystal Palace game, and great news on Martinelli that we should have him back in a week or two.
Yeah. I was saying to you earlier, but I've set up a new YouTube channel. So
yes, you have.
Check it out, guys. It's called Oohtobe, OOHTOBE. Check it out. One video up so far, but
description. Check it out. Click the link.
There you go. Yeah, like and subscribe, support. That'd be great.
Smash that like button.
Come on. Right. So let's continue with the content. Basically, I said in that video, and that was done on Sunday morning, that I didn't think the Martinelli injury was going to be that bad. And I know there was a lot of scare stories floating around there, including coming from the manager himself. But it just didn't really kind of make sense to me that it would be the case. You never know. But the fact is that my immediate kind of worry went to the fact when he went down, when you heard about the injury, was that, oh, is it his knee again? Because if it was his knee, it would be really bad news. It would be, a real kind of worry that it was a recurring kind of chronic problem that's going to keep coming back and, have real issues around. But the fact it was his ankle that he rolled, unless, it went really wonky, it was always going to be a sprain or something to that effect, ligaments, of course, but nothing like, what I was basically saying is I didn't think his season was going to be over. I was quite confident of that. And if it was a 1 or 2 weeks out, that's fine. That often the reason why things like this happen when you've been out for a year is because your body is overcompensating because there's a bit of weakness in one area. How often do you see it when you've hurt your left knee and then your right ankle goes because you're leaning on it so much? So I do think that, I didn't really expect it to be a long-term one. And it's really, really good news, because I think if we are going to make a charge up the table and, look to do something this season, I still think Martinelli is going to be key to that effort, not least because of the form of Aubameyang and, whether we need to, not in a kind of nasty way to Aubameyang, but we need to use the threat of Martinelli to get, Aubameyang to get a bit of a kick up the arse, which he needs. Or just in general to either play with Aubameyang, because he seems to perform better when there's a dual threat up there, when he's not kind of getting man-marked or sidelined for that matter. So I do think the fact Martinelli is going to be involved in the running for us is going to be really, really key to us. And the fact that Thomas Partey is up and running and probably going to start on Thursday, I would imagine he should do, that's for sure. Because I think we've been cautious with him up to now anyway. But at the end of the day, he's our best midfielder. You can't keep messing around. Like, you've got to start playing him at some point. Things on the injury front are starting to look much, much better, because you look at those 3 players there, that is a solid spine of a team. who are growing in confidence, but as you saw on Saturday, are a couple of players getting injured away from being absolutely shocking again.
Yeah.
So, there's no other way to look at that kind of injury pool other than with glee and optimism.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, every time Martinelli goes down, or every time Saka goes down, there is that, and Emile Smith-Rowe will be as soon as he takes a knock. It's just that pit. It's just that pit in your stomach that you just know. We know what's going to happen because we've got no one of real quality to back them up. Just before we wrap up, we've got a little bit of housekeeping in the chat box to go through. Wayne Sage, thank you so much for the donation. Says, didn't Mislintat sign Lichtsteiner, Torreira, and Guendouzi? I mean, on those three, Lichtsteiner was a free, and I mean, you know what Arsenal like with free deals. We've seen it with Willian, we've seen it with other players. Torreira was great until Emery ruined him, I thought.
Yeah. I don't look at them players as being like Lichtsteiner aside, and he was a free, and he's not on Willian money. Let's be honest. Torreira and Guendouzi, I don't see Guendouzi as a bust. He just
had himself.
Like which you can't always account for signing players. Sometimes it goes that way. And Torreira is decent. We should get good money for Torreira. He's not a crap player. It's just not right for us, maybe.
No, I don't think that. There's always a chance he could come back. We've seen some strange kind of things come out about how he might be getting brought back prematurely, which I find very strange. But also, I wanted to just try and get up the league for fantasy football, but the website's not working for me, which is really irritating. Otherwise, it will show. What I'll do is I'll definitely check in with you guys on the fantasy on Friday when it's just me on the show. But apologies for that. I will try and get that up. There was a couple more things in the chat box I wanted to find, but I think they may have just disappeared off the screen now, which is really irritating.
Oh, do you have fantasy league for your Discord, do you?
For the whole of the channel, the link is in the description. Yeah,
I should be in that because I'm actually doing all right this year, and I'm
not.
Okay.
The code's in the description. If you haven't joined our fantasy league and listeners and you want to, the code for it's the official Premier League one. So if you want to type the code in, which is in the description at the bottom of the description of the video, then you can join the league. Dan's doing quite well. That's why I think he wants to keep making me check the league, and I'm not doing too well. And my free hit this week is risky because I have a no Spurs rule at all. So, and then we look at the guys who are winning our league, and there's always Spurs players. I'm like, it don't really count.
I've got Spurs players in. I've bit the bullet this year. I've had to do it. I just don't want to lose anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's the effective buying FIFA points. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Deary me. Yeah, we will. And Dan says, can we do a members FPL league? Well, we're going to set one of those up for next season, Dan, for sure. We're quite far through this season, so setting up a new league now doesn't make too much sense. But yeah, we'll set that up. Anyway, if you can, before we sign off, drop a subscription onto Johnny's channel. The link to that is in the description. to be. Fantastic. I mean, it's almost hard trying to think of a niche name for an Arsenal channel because there's so many. I think you've managed it.
I know. I actually thought, I'm sure someone would have done this before, but I think that works. Do you know what? I'll ask you this as well. That to be is my favourite Guna chant. Okay, yeah, I think it has to be. I like the feeling you get when you actually sing it. What would be yours, Tom?
I mean, I do like. What do you think of Tottenham?
And what exactly do you think of Tottenham?
Oh shit, mate!
You have a very similar mind.
I really like the Lacazette song as well. The newer one, not the original one. The new one.
What do you want to do a rendition?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think how it starts now. And I can't. He's our Frenchman, our number 9. Plays for Arsenal in the red and white.
Oh yeah.
Scoring goals is what he does best, and he goes by the name of Lacazette.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. My favourite one of all time was Let's Talk About Cesc, Baby.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
That was some smart words.
I like Danny Ceballos as well. The Paella and Estrella song. Do you not know that? No, I can't. There's a little bit of rude at the end, so I'm not going to sing it for that reason. But I quite like it. It's very good. And I'm sure I can't wait for fans to be back in the ground, so players like Gabriel and Martinelli and Partey can get their own songs too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to fans getting back in the ground as soon as possible as this vaccine gradually rolls out. But thank you, Johnny, for your time this evening. I much appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. And always shout out to all the guys in the chat as well. It's a wonderful show, and so good at how it's so interactive with everyone, kind of germinating the topic of discussion with their comments. So really good stuff, good fun.
Awesome. I'm just in Tash's comment in the chat saying Tom with the hype. I've pretty low voice, but I can't sing, so it just goes high naturally whenever I try. Range, exactly. I have range. I've got a career in this code, clearly. Some orchestral choir coming up. Thank you so much, people, for tuning in this evening. As I said, there'll be more information about the Football Prices sponsor on Friday when the first competition goes live. Looking forward to revealing what signed shirt is going to be available for you guys to get involved with. And of course, there'll be a free ticket available to one of our very lucky members. So I look forward to selecting that randomly. But thank you for tuning in. If you could drop a like on the video, really appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. There's also a dedicated Let's Talk Arsenal intro video coming soon. We're waiting to get the final edit done on that, so looking forward to that. But we'll see you again tomorrow for the preview of the Crystal Palace game, in addition to some news, which I imagine they'll be dropping before the match as well. So we'll see you again very, very soon. Check out Johnny's channel, which is in the description, as already mentioned. You can find him on Twitter at Johnny Cochrane. You can find me at the Goonstalk TV and at Tom Canton Media. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.